This is a video that was produced for our Cold Case Detective channel, a new true crime channel that we created. We're uploading it here so those who do not know about our new channel and are not subscribed can see the sort of content we're producing there. Don't forget to check out the new channel and the link in the description, and we hope you enjoy this Cold Case Detective video.
2018 has been named the year of the cold case, due in most part to historical cases that have been solved with the use of evidence collected from crimes committed up to 30 or 40 years ago. This stored evidence has now provided DNA, something that was unknown to forensic science all those years ago. Many people have uploaded their DNA profiles to genealogy websites such as GED Match or Ancestry DNA to discover their lineage and find relatives. Law enforcement agencies are now using these websites and the DNA profiles stored within them to help with their investigations, and they say that very few people object to this. Now, without further ado, we bring you 3 cold cases which were solved very recently thanks to the use of new forensic techniques. Duke Pearson. 31-year-old Dorothy Fielding went missing in August 1967. Her body was found buried in a shallow grave 8 months later near the 7 Mile Vehicle Park in Spokane, Washington State. 47-year-old Ruby Lampson was reported missing in June 1967, but her remains were not found until 1971. The shallow grave where she had been hidden was also in the 7 Mile Park, not far from Dorothy's grave. In September of the same year, a suicide was reported by Duke Pearson, who was a sheriff's deputy at the time. His wife, 33-year-old Sandra Pearson, was found dead in a car at their family home. Her body was inside the vehicle in the garage. Tin foil had been stuffed into the exhaust pipe before a connecting hose had been fed through the car's rear window. The ignition was switched to on, and the fuel tank was at least half full. The garage was filled with fumes, but strangely, the engine was not running. This so-called suicide happened 3 months after Ruby's disappearance, and just 1 month after Dorothy's. Sandra was 5 months pregnant and left behind her other 2 children. In April 2018, the Major Crimes Unit received a tip from someone who said that Dorothy used to be a member of the Fallsview Tavern bowling team. It turned out that Ruby was also a member, and the 2 women were friends. It was also rumoured that at the time, Dorothy was having an affair with Duke Pearson. Pearson worked for the sheriff's office from 1959 until 1966, when he abruptly quit his job. His colleagues stated that his attitude and behaviour became unstable. He even threatened to kill one co-worker who asked why he wasn't coming into work anymore. All 3 cold cases were reopened, and Pearson was questioned in April 2018, although he denied ever knowing Dorothy or Ruby. Following further investigation, detectives were finally able to get an arrest warrant 51 years after the crimes had been committed. They made a move to arrest Pearson on the 25th of January 2019, only to find that the 85-year-old had died 3 days earlier. The Babes in the Wood. In 1987, Russell Bishop was found not guilty of the murders of Karen Hadaway and Nicola Fellows, who were both only 9 years old. Their bodies had been found less than a mile from their Brighton homes, in a dense wooded area known as Wild Park. They had both been sexually assaulted and strangled. Bishop volunteered himself in the search for the missing schoolgirls and was one of the first people to arrive on the scene. Bishop's then partner and mother of his children said that a sweatshirt found at the murder scene was his, but the trial fell apart when she later retracted this claim. Bishop continued to protest his innocence and pleaded with the police to find the real perpetrator so that he could clear his name. But just 3 years later, Bishop was back on trial again, this time for the attempted murder of a 7-year-old girl who he snatched off the streets of Brighton and shoved into the boot of his car. He drove her to a wooded area, sexually assaulted her, and after strangling the young girl, left her for dead. Luckily, she survived the attack and proved to be an exceptional witness. At the ID parade, Bishop tried to disguise himself by wetting his hair, but the girl picked him out anyway. He was charged with attempted murder, kidnap, and sexual assault. The court found him guilty and sentenced him to life imprisonment. Even though Bishop was safe behind bars, detectives never gave up their fight to get justice for Karen and Nicola. In 2005, the double jeopardy law was scrapped in the UK, meaning that Bishop could be retried for the double murder, even though he had already been acquitted once. In this second trial, the prosecution was able to link DNA evidence taken from the sweatshirt to both of the girls and Bishop. They were also able to prove by a 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance that a sample taken from Karen's arm matched the DNA profile of Russell Bishop. Of course, none of this forensic evidence was available at the first trial in 1987. Bishop tried to explain away the evidence by saying that when involved in the search for the schoolgirls, he had touched both bodies at the crime scene to try and find a pulse. However, 2 witnesses who were teenagers at the time testified that Bishop didn't go anywhere near the bodies during the search. In December 2018, Bishop was sentenced to life again at the Old Bailey in London, with a minimum term of 36 years. He will be 82 before he can be considered for release. It had taken 32 years, but new forensic evidence had finally won justice for the families of the babes in the wood. Linda O'Keefe. The photograph of 11-year-old Linda O'Keefe had been hanging on the wall of the Newport Beach Police Department for 45 years. It was kept there as a reminder for officers never to forget her unsolved murder. Linda went missing on the 6th of July 1973, whilst walking home from summer school in Southern California. She was seen talking to a stranger in a turquoise van before she vanished. Her body was found dumped in a ditch the following day. She had been sexually assaulted and strangled. In the summer of 2018, police began publishing a series of tweets on Twitter that were written as though they had been posted by Linda herself. The tweets told the story of her murder and asked for help to find her killer. Police used evidence collected at the crime scene to produce a DNA profile that could predict the killer's skin, hair, and eye colour. Then they made a sketch of what he might have looked like if he was aged 25 in 1973, and what he might look like now. After these sketches were released on Twitter, the authorities said they received a significant lead. They turned to a genealogy website that allows users to submit their own DNA samples to search for relatives and ancestors. They got a hit, and 72-year-old James Neal was arrested in Colorado in January of 2019. That's 3 cold cases that were solved recently. Thank you for watching, and remember that if you do give your own DNA to one of these genetic websites, the police will have access to it, and there is always a chance that you may find out that one of your relatives is a murderer.